Welcome to our iNaturalist webinar for the International Monarch Monitoring Blitz. This webinar and other webinars that we have delivered are recorded and can be found on CWF's website. I will also put a link in the chat, but if you just Google CWF webinars, you'll be able to find the link to that. I would like to start this presentation by acknowledging with immense gratitude the land in which the Canadian Wildlife Federation is located on and where I live, work, and play, which is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. The Algonquin people have inhabited and cared for these lands long before today, and we take this time to be grateful for their care and show our gratitude and respect to them and the land that it provides to us. So my name is Acacia Frempong-Manso, and I am the iNaturalist Engagement Coordinator here at CWF. And today we have three presenters who will be talking about monarchs. So our first presenter, Antoine, is a dedicated environmental professional currently serving as project lead in the ecosystems unit at the Commissions for Environmental Cooperation in Montreal, Quebec. He plays a crucial role in managing projects that aim to protect and enhance the North American environment. His work involves coordinating efforts between Canada, Mexico, and the United States to address pressing environmental issues, particularly focusing on pollinators, migratory birds, grassland conservation. We also have Eleanor, who is a passionate professional in environmental sciences and sustainable development. She currently works as a consultant for the Outreach and Partnership Unit at the Commissions for Environmental Cooperation. In this role, she contributes to advancing the organization's outreach and public engagement strategies, ensuring an inclusive and diverse participation. She also plays a key role in coordinating the collaborative initiatives, including the International Monarch Monitoring Blitz that we're going to be talking about today. And lastly, we have Michelle, who is a wildlife biologist at the Canadian Wildlife Federation. She is the project coordinator for the rights of way and monarch habitat restoration work here in Ontario. Michelle has a master's from Acadia University and more than 20 years experience in ecological research, writing, and conservation, including conservation planning and for protected areas, species at risk, and creating biodiversity standards for best management practices. So for today's webinar, we're just going to go over some quick Zoom logistics. If you're having issues with the chat, most of the time you can often leave and rejoining. It often corrects things. For some reason, if we tend to drop off, please rejoin using this link. For this presentation, we'll be using the Q&A at the end. So I'll be compiling all the questions and they can be posted throughout as well. So please use the Q&A function to ask your questions. And for those who are hearing impaired, click the live transcription at the bottom of our screen and click show subtitles. So quickly, a little bit about the Canadian Wildlife Federation. CWF is one of Canada's largest conservation organizations, undertaking projects in conservation and research across the country, across most key areas of focus. Our mission is to conserve and inspire the conservation of Canada's wildlife and habitat, use for all and enjoyment for all. We do this through a number of ways, like engaging the public with citizen science, education programs like Wild Outside or the Canadian Conservation Corps program, and specific projects in freshwater, marine, and terrestrial environments. CWF is also the lead organization behind iNaturalist Canada, along with our partners Parks Canada and NatureServe Canada. So after listening to today's talk, if you're wondering what more you can do for monarch conservation, a simple way is to upload photos using iNaturalist. And you don't have to only limit yourself to monarchs. You can upload any fauna and flora that you choose, and it's easy to do so using the map or using the website ennaturalist.ca. So it's as simple as taking a picture and you can contribute to conservation. So you can use the app or you can access your camera roll where you can upload these pictures and you can have access to an image recognition software that can help you provide a suggestion just for what the species is. But even if you're unsure about what that species is, there's a community of 100,000 people who are willing to help you identify those observations. And to help with this, CWF has actually created a couple of helpful resources, like tips and tricks for taking photos on different species. We do have one for butterflies and moths, so feel free to check them out. We also have guides and video tutorials and webinars like this one, so there's more info on how well that works, and I will also drop the link to that in the chat. And lastly, I just want to point out that all of these observations feed into the global iNaturalist.org database. So there's over 160 million globally observations, and 15 million were made here in Canada. And this data is searchable, downloadable by anyone, and is specifically shared with organizations for conservation and research. So data from people who are affiliated with iNaturalist Canada is more easily shared for conservation in Canada. So please make sure you check your accounts if you are in Canada to have it set to iNaturalist Canada so that you can contribute. The content is also catered for show local species and connect with people locally within your area. And iNaturalist Canada is in French and English, so it is bilingual in our languages, and we do have custom resources for those people who reside in Canada. So I am going to now stop sharing my presentation and I will pass it over to Antoine to talk about their work.
Thank you so much, Acacia. Thank you to CWF for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Antoine Asselin-Nguyen. I'm a project lead at the CEC, the Commission for Environmental Cooperation in the Ecosystems Unit. Just want to make sure you can see my slide all right. Yes?
Yep, we can see your slides.
All right, thank you. So as I said, my name is Antoine. I work at the CEC Secretariat, which is based in Montreal, Canada. Very excited for this webinar on the International Monarch Monitoring Blitz. As you can see in our logo, the monarch is very important to us. It's in our logo. We are a trinational organization of the governments of Canada, Mexico, and the United States. And this butterfly is really a trinational collaboration, a trinational symbol of collaboration. So very fitting to our organization. I want to tell you about the CEC. So we're celebrating our 30-year anniversary this year. We were created in 1994 as an environmental side agreement to NAFTA, the trade agreement. And then, of course, as of 2020, with the new trade agreement, the USMCA, we are now operating under the new Environmental Cooperation Agreement. And what that means is that the three governments, Canada, Mexico, and the United States, give us a mandate through the three highest level environmental authorities. So, of course, in Canada, that's Minister Guilbeault from Environment and Climate Change Canada. From Mexico, we have Secretary Alvarez from the Mexican Secretary of Environment and Natural Resources, and Administrator Regan from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So those three authorities give us our mandates on how to cooperate on the environmental scale in North America. And our mission really is to facilitate cooperation and community participation for the conservation, protection, and enhancement of the North American environment, and also to support sustainable development and benefit of present and future generations. We work in many different topics and many different units. I want to talk to you today about our ecosystems work, what we do in terms of North American collaboration for biodiversity conservation. We work on all these different topics, and what's particularly relevant to the audience today is our work on pollinators and species, such as the monarch butterfly. So I'm going to give you a little introduction of the monarch butterfly. Of course, it's very well known for their striking orange and black wings, and also their remarkable life cycle and migratory behavior. So I want to give us a little bit of understanding of this biology to give us insights of why they are such a captivating species. So just a quick disclaimer, this is going to be a quick overview. Some of you might already know this information or even be more knowledgeable in this monarch butterfly that I am. So we'll go with it. The monarch butterfly life cycle, of course, it's an insect that goes through the complete metamorphosis. So the adult female will lay eggs on the milkweed plant. The milkweed plant is really the sole host plant for the monarch larvae, so very important. And then during the larval stage, the caterpillar that will hatch from the eggs will exclusively feed on the milkweed and then growing rapidly until it goes through the pupal stage, the chrysalis. That's where the metamorphosis occurs. It transforms into a butterfly, and then the adult emerge to continue the life cycle. But then what's really fascinating about this particular insect is that it migrates across North America. So the monarchs in North America undertake incredible migration. If we look to the left of the map here, you can see the Western population. The Western population migrates from Western North America to coastal California in the winter. But then the Eastern population will migrate from Eastern Canada and the United States and all converge to Mexico, to the red dot you see at the bottom in central Mexico for the wintering season. So of course, you can see images here of the colonies. So the winter destination that we see in red, all the monarch butterflies in North America will all converge into the forests of central Mexico. They're going to cluster together on trees and form these dense colonies. And then they will spend the winter months in these high altitude forests to survive the cold by entering a state of dormancy until the temperature warm up in spring. And then they go back to the spring migration. But then unlike, for example, migratory birds that individuals might do the migration back and forth for many years, what's very special about the monarch butterfly is that they do this migration over multiple generations. So it's really a generational journey, and what makes this migration truly extraordinary is this span of multiple generations. So the monarchs that arrive at the overwintering sites in Mexico, they're actually the descendants of those that left months earlier. So each generation will know their way to migrate based on a combination of inherited knowledge and also environmental cues. The first generation that is in central Mexico will emerge from the overwintering sites and then will start their journey northward. They will mate, they will lay eggs as they move into the southern United States and northern Mexico. And then same thing for the second and third generation. They will go up northward, they will lay their eggs, and then a new generation will come in until the fourth generation. The fourth generation will reach the northernmost part. So this is Canada, southern Canada, and the United States. And the fourth generation is interesting. It's sort of a super generation that's really fascinating because it undergoes physiological changes. And this generation can live for up to 8 to 9 months, and then we'll do the whole migration back to Mexico, southward, and overwinter so the cycle can begin again. So that's really a fascinating phenomenon that we have here in North America. And I think this is why we're interested in it. But the monarch butterfly is under very many threats. There's a lot of habitat loss, both in their breeding habitat and in their overwintering habitat. They need more milkweed to survive. There's climate change, there's pesticides, there's natural enemies, there's predation and diseases, and other human concerns. So with all of this, we really see a decline in the monarch butterfly populations, and we need to work to address those declines and to preserve this migratory phenomenon. So at the CEC, the Commission for Environmental Cooperation, as I told you, we work with the 3 federal governments. So our work on monarch and pollinator conservation includes steering committees of people from these agencies in Canada: Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, Environment and Climate Change Canada. In Mexico, we have the CONAMP and CONABIO. And then the United States, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So I want to give you an overview of our work at the CEC in terms of monarch conservation. So as we're celebrating 30 years, this graphic sort of reflects back on 30 years of monarch butterfly conservation. It's in 3 languages. The visual is trilingual, as we work with French communities in Quebec, for example, and Spanish speakers in Mexico. And as we're celebrating 30 years of environmental cooperation, I'll take you through the top left and then sort of follow the yellow line to give you a bit of insight on the work that we do. So it's, as I said, it's very important from the beginning. The monarch butterflies is in our logo as it's a symbol of trinational collaboration. In the 90s, it was already a pressing issues, and then in 1997, the CC convened its first North American conference on the monarch butterfly. And then this led to publishing the North American Monarch Conservation Plan. We then followed up with a publication on monarch butterfly monitoring in North America, an overview of initiative and protocols. And then around 2016 was when we created the Trinational Monarch Conservation Science Partnership. And this Trinational Monarch Conservation Science Partnership is really the group that continues to this day the science conservation in North America. They've created the Monarch Knowledge Network. That's the little computer that you see here, a database that can be used for evidence-based conservation. We followed up with different outreach and communication tools with the conservation toolbox, a postcard about 10 things that you can do to help save the monarch. And then in 2017, that leads us to, on the left, the International Monarch Monitoring Blitz. So my colleague, Eleanor, will give you more details about this Monarch Monitoring Blitz. But it's happening right now, and it's for a 10-day period. We're asking all the citizens across North America to collect data so it can help scientists with evidence-based conservation. And as we saw with our migration, when it all converges over winter in Mexico, it's easier to count them. They're all in one place. But once they're in summer, they're all over North America, all over the US and Canada. We need the people to go out in the field to make the observations and then to report back, so we can inform scientists, and the scientists can make decision based on this information to help the conservation. Following up, so we're going, if I'm not mistaken, on our 8th year of this Blitz. And then since then, we've also had other publications on monitoring monarch butterflies in their habitat across North America, on inventory and monitoring protocols, on data standards. And then over the past few years, hosting a Trinational Monarch Science meeting and moving forward on the conservation of the monarch butterfly in North America. So we see that it's still an issue. We still need to work on conserving them. So that's why we're here today. So that was sort of an overview of our monarch work. I also want to take a few minutes to give you some information on our pollinators work. So one thing that we do have is we released 2 months ago our State of Knowledge on North American Pollinator Conservation. So it gives you a current understanding of pollinator conservation, of ecosystem services supported by pollinators, and how social sciences can contribute to pollinator conservation in North America. If you're interested, you can find it at cec.org/publications. And then another piece that was very exciting to us is last year we launched a social media campaign, People for Pollinators. So you can see the handles to our social media on the right, but basically pollinators help us, so it's time to help them. The People for Pollinators campaign is on social media. We've posted on our different networks. And then as of the beginning of this year, we had a total reach of over 8 million. So we were very happy about the success of this campaign. We've posted about different things, for example, the world without pollinators, and then on the Day of the Dead, on celebrating the monarch butterfly as an icon to indigenous communities in Mexico. If you're interested in posting about People for Pollinators, there's also a social media toolkit that's available online. and that's made with pre-made posts that you can share on all your social media. You can also rework the post to include whatever you want. And it's available at cc.org/people for pollinators. And I want to end with this little postcard that we developed on 9 ways that you can help pollinators. And really, today we're focusing, for example, on number 1 and 4. Number 1 about planting native flowering plants. The monarch butterflies, they need the milkweed to survive. And then number 4 is about being a community scientist. So if you go out in the field and use the apps to document the plants and the monarch butterflies that are around you, this will be very useful to drive the conservation forward. So thank you. Thank you again for the invitation. My name is Antoine. If you want to reach out to me, my email is here. And I'll pass the word to Eleanor, my colleague, to give us more details about the Monarch Monitoring Blitz. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Antoine. So I'm gonna share my screen. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Thank you. Okay, so my name is Eleanor, and as mentioned by Acacia, I coordinate the Monarch Blitz for the CEC. So I'm going to be speaking a little bit about what the Blitz is and how you can participate in it. So the International Monarch Monitoring Blitz, it's a tri-national initiative that takes place once per year. And on the dates of the Blitz, we encourage individuals and organizations and community scientists to simply go outdoors and report their observations on monarch butterflies, milkweed, monarch eggs, caterpillars, and chrysalises. And the gathered data allows us to better understand and identify the trends in the monarch butterflies breeding productivity, range, and timing. And this information helps researchers identify priority areas for monarch conservation actions. So the Monarch Blitz is very unique in a way because it is the only tri-national initiative that allows us to capture what we call a snapshot of the monarch butterfly and milkweed distribution during the summer in the 3 countries. So the map on the right is this snapshot that we captured last year, so in the 2023 Blitz. And the orange dots show us where there was a high number of monarch observations. The blue dots show us where there was a high number of milkweed observations. And then the pink dots are a combination of both. So monarch and milkweed observations. Then the white grayish dots show us where there was a lower number of both milkweed and monarch observations, but observations nevertheless, so they were valuable as well. And the collected data is made available for anyone to download and consult via the Tri-National Monarch Knowledge Network, which you can access through the link that you can see here below, monarchknowledge.net. I do encourage you to take a look when you have a moment. It contains a lot of information about monarchs, and you'll also be able to find all the data that we've collected over the past 7 years for the Monarch Blitz. And so as I mentioned before, during the Blitz, we encourage participants to report their observations on monarch butterflies in all its stages. So these would be adult monarchs, monarch eggs, caterpillars, and chrysalises. And we also gather observations on milkweed because, as mentioned by Antoine before, this is a flowering plant that's essential to the life cycle of the monarch, as it is the sole source food for the caterpillars. And the survival of the monarch butterfly basically depends on the accessibility of these host plants. The conservation of monarch butterflies must be a tri-national effort because these species migrates across the 3 countries throughout the years, as already described by Antoine. And we intend to collect data to understand trends in this species' reproductive cycle. So these are all the partner organizations from the 3 countries that have partnered together to make the Blitz happen each year for the past 8 years. So for Canada, we have Environment and Climate Change Canada, which is a government agency. The Canadian Wildlife Federation, who just joined this year, and Space for Life in Montreal. Then for Mexico, we have CONANP, which is the Natural Protected Areas Commission, another government agency. Profauna, who participates through its Correo Real program. And then for the US, we have the US Fish and Wildlife Service, the Xerces Society for Invertebrate Conservation, Journey North, and the Monarch Joint Venture, which is a co-host for the Monarch Larva Monitoring Project. So these are the results over the past years for the Blitz. So last year, over 1,700 participants from the 3 countries submitted almost 4,000 observations in total and reported more than 40,000 milkweed stems and more than 13,000 monarchs. The map on the right is a snapshot of all participants and their location. And even though the number of participants last year in observations wasn't as high as the year before, so in 2022, we received close to 6,000 observations from almost 3,000 participants. And even though last year it wasn't as high, as you can see here, participation over the last 7 years has increased for sure. And we hope to continue raising awareness and reaching more and more people each year. So you can participate in the Blitz either as an individual or as an organization. For individuals, the first thing you need to do is simply choose a community science program that is right for you based on your location in Canada, Mexico, or the US. Then simply familiarize yourself with your program's protocol on how to collect and submit data. And on the dates of the Blitz, go outdoors and report your observations on monarch butterflies, monarch eggs, caterpillars, chrysalises, and milkweed. And most importantly, have fun and share pictures on social media using our hashtag #MonarchBlitz. Then for organization, the first step is quite similar. Simply choose a community science program that's right for you based on your organization's location. And then we recommend contacting the program coordinator, as they may provide educational content and training sessions to ease your data collection and help you run activities independently. Then plan activities that encourage outdoor data gathering for the Blitz and try involving as many people as possible. Then simply make sure that each participant reports their individual observations on monarch butterflies, eggs, caterpillars, chrysalises, and milkweed. Have fun, of course, and with participant consent, share photos on social media with the hashtag #MonarchBlitz. And then you can go to cec.org/blitz, where you'll find a form that will be available soon for you to share your Blitz activities and pictures, so we can highlight your organization as a participating organization and feature your logo on our webpage. So these are all the community science programs that take part in the Blitz per country. So for Canada, we have Mission Monarch, which is coordinated by Space for Life, and iNaturalist Canada, which is coordinated by the Canadian Wildlife Federation. we will hear more about them later on this webinar. Then for Mexico, we have Naturalista and the Correo Real program, coordinated by Profauna. For the US, we have Journey North, which coordinates their own monarch and milkweed project. Then we have the Monarch Larva Monitoring Project, which is co-hosted by the Monarch Joint Venture. The Western Monarch Milkweed Mapper, which is a collaborative partnership between several organizations in the US, including the Xerces Society and US Fish and Wildlife Service. And then we have iNaturalist. So these are all the options you have for community science programs. And some of these programs will require that you create an account first before starting submitting observations, but it's quite easy and it's free, of course. So this year's Blitz began on the 26th of July and will be ongoing until the 4th of August. You can always visit cec.org/blitz for more information. And we really look forward to receiving your observations and your participation. So that would be all on my end, and happy to answer any questions at the end that you may have. I'm going to pass it on to Acacia. Thank you.
I'm going to quickly share my screen so that I can show everybody where to find the project on iNaturalist.ca. Okay, perfect. So we have created a project on CWF where you can find the project, and to do the project basically and participate, all you need to do is log into your iNaturalist account, then you can go to projects. And then from here, it will be featured right here, and you can just click the project. And you can join the project so that you can see how many observations there are, how many species, identifiers, observers, and you can kind of look at the map to get a distribution of where the majority of the observations coming from, and you can communicate with others. Also, we have journal posts that you can see where you can kind of engage with everybody. So it's a really, really great way to join the project. I just want to note that you don't have to actually join the project for your observations to count. They will automatically be pulled in, so it's very simple. All we are asking you to do is upload photos of monarchs or milkweeds. But joining the project is a really great way to stay connected and again, see how many observations they are, where they're coming from, and communicate with other naturalist users who want to kind of talk about monarch conservation. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I will hand it over to Michelle, who will talk about some of the work that we are doing here at CWF for monarch conservation.
Hi there, everybody. Okay, I'm just checking to make sure. Yes, I do have my volume on. Excellent. So I actually want to start by thanking Antoine and Eleanor for giving such just very good background information about monarch butterfly biology and their migration behavior, and just giving us this sense of why it's so important for all three nations to cooperate together. You saw how many organizations are working together to learn more about monarch butterflies and conserve them. And I guess my little part of this is to talk about another monitoring program for monarch butterflies. And this is something that you could do. Sorry, I think something just happened with my volume. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yep,
we
we can
hear
hear
you.
you.
Okay. So this is something that you could do once you're on iNaturalist, because you're doing part of the Monarch Blitz. This is a program that you could actually jump to after the fact and actually take part in our program to monitor butterflies as they migrate through Ontario back down on their way to Mexico. So the reason why Ontario is so important for monarch butterflies is because it contains about 20% of the breeding range for monarch butterflies in Canada, and about 30% of the actual breeding habitat as well. So as I said, this is a program that begins in late August. Monarch butterflies are going to begin the journey to their overwinter habitat. And one thing that I can just say about monarch butterfly migration behavior is they actually migrate during the day. They're diurnal migrants, but at nighttime what they do is they can tend to roost on trees and shrubs, and they often form large groups of butterflies. And so our iNaturalist project page is actually focused on observations of roosts. So what we're really looking to do is to identify the areas where they engage in this roosting behavior so that we can link that back to our conservation programs, which are about restoring habitat for monarch butterflies and other pollinators. The peak migration through Ontario happens around late August through till the end of September. So that would be the time that you could join our Kaleidoscopes program. We do know that the main routes for monarch butterflies likely occur along lake shores, as you can see with those big black arrows. But we don't know as much about how their flight paths relate to more specific landscape features. And that's what we're trying to learn with this program. So we're looking to engage citizen scientists such as yourselves to identify specific habitat requirements for roosting and actively migrating monarchs. As we do that, we're learning where we can then prioritize our conservation efforts. And this is really important because CWF runs a lot of programs to restore pollinator habitat throughout Ontario. We run a couple of community practices of public works managers and other habitat managers in various municipalities around Ontario. And we're kind of actively working with people all through the province, well, specifically, I guess, all through the monarch migration range, to create more habitat that will support the health of monarch butterflies as they're migrating back to Mexico. So we want to know more about the migratory routes. We've been working on developing some scientific models that could predict where the most important flyways and roosts occur. So I showed you that photograph previously that showed like the main arrows along lake shores, which we think they're following to the most extent for their migration path. But when we actually get down into having people record where they're seeing migrating monarchs, the maps look a little bit more like this. And so this is just our preliminary modeling that's based to observations collected by people like yourselves through iNaturalist. We want you to collect more data for us. We're continuing with this program. We want to improve our models and determine kind of on a much more fine scale where these migratory pathways are. So if we can get thousands and thousands more observations this year, next year, the year after, then we're going to be able to put together a much finer picture of the areas that are most important to monarch butterflies. So the program that we're running, it's called the Kaleidoscopes Monarch Program. I thought I would just show you a picture of our website where you can learn more about the program and even join. So if you go to the Canadian Wildlife Federation website, which is what I've got right here, you can type in Kaleidoscopes Monarch Program, or you can go in through our monarch butterfly work and find it that way and learn about some of the other programs as well. The page is fairly simple. It just gives you a very simple sign-up form, tells you how you can participate, which basically just involves joining the iNaturalist Canada community and then looking for our project page. And then away you go. So this is what the page looks like on iNaturalist. It's monarch migration in Ontario. And we are really looking forward to getting more observations of monarch roosts. All of the instructions, maps, observations, blog, photos from the field. You can find all of that in the iNaturalist page. It's actually a really user-friendly platform and quite fun to join. You can kind of see what everybody else is doing as well. And, you know, I guess I just want to end by saying, you know, thank you very much for doing stuff like this. You know, I think it can be, you know, tempting to think that, you know, going out for a few walks and recording a few monarch butterfly observations doesn't make that much of a difference, but to be honest, it does. And I hope that, you know, seeing, you know, these general maps of how our preliminary modeling is panning out gives you a sense that, you know, your work of going out and collecting an observation and, you know, noticing a roost, taking a picture, posting it, you know, in our project in iNaturalist is a data point. And these data points are used in our models, and the models are connected to our other habitat restoration efforts on the ground. So you can go out on, you know, a lovely afternoon, you can go out on a beautiful evening, head to your favorite conservation authority, you know, go to a park in the city, go to a place where you might know that there's milkweed, or, you know, just that combination of, you know, a little bit of meadow habitat and some trees. Take your kids, take your dog, go out with your grandchildren. You know, it's something you can do together, and it's something that really does add up, you know, to make a difference with all the thousands of other people who are doing the same thing with you. So thank you very much for taking part in our program, and for taking part in the other blitzes as well. I've put my email address down there if you'd like to reach out, and there is the address for our iNaturalist program as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. And we do have some questions, and thank you everyone for your presentation and for offering your expertise. We really do appreciate it. So our very first question is, it's an iNaturalist related question. If I cannot get a photo of the monarch, can I still record it on iNat? So unfortunately, for the photo to be considered research grade, you would need to have evidence of a monarch. So that would be a photo. So you can still technically upload it if you're just looking to say that you saw it, but it just wouldn't be able to contribute to monarch conservation efforts. The guide that we did make does have some tips on trying to avoid having your shadow present in the photo and how to kind of sneak up on monarchs and moths to take photos. So I really encourage you to check that out. Our another question is specifically for Michelle. Is 2 or more considered a roost?
You would definitely want 2 or more. I think if you saw 3 butterflies on a shrub or a tree in the evening and you took a picture, you can submit that as a roost. Yes, thank you.
So our next question is again for Michelle or anyone who feels like they want to answer, but it's specifically about roosts. But are there other types of wildlife whose presence would deter monarchs from choosing that spot to roost? And if so, why? If you have a reason.
I would only be speculating about this. I'm sure there could be, you know, I'm speculating about this, and I guess I'm going to speculate on the basis of being someone who actually knows more about bees, and so, you know, they're insects as well. You know, insects have pretty highly refined senses. They have that kind of sense of smell. They can detect pheromones. I don't think I want to specifically say what might deter a monarch from roosting. I would think, and I'm kind of just thinking like a butterfly at the moment. You know, I'm thinking that it would have a lot to do with landscape features. So, you know, you have to think, you know, the sun is going down, or, you know, the butterflies can detect that the sun is starting to go down. And, you know, they're looking for a place to roost at night. They're going to be looking for shelter. So they're going to be looking for, you know, something that gets them off the ground where they won't be predated. They're going to be looking for something with like a little bit of cover, so in case they have rainfall. It's possible that they wouldn't, that if they detected, you know, a bird's nest in that tree or shrub, that they, you know, they might move on and land somewhere else. I think that's probably the extent to which I can answer that question. Sorry, I can't say anything more specific.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. And I'll answer some questions about the project. So yes, the CWF project is specifically only in Ontario. So if you are having to visit and you want to contribute, that would be amazing. You do need to join this project. So it is not like the Monarch Blitz project that we have now where it will automatically pull in. You actually have to join the project. And there's a little bit more work that you have to do. So for the roost, you have to enter in some data. The next question I have, I can pose to everybody. What are the main predators of monarchs? If anyone would like to take a stab at that.
I'm going to take a stab at that. So, you know, monarch butterflies, their larvae only eat milkweed. Milkweed plants have toxins in them, and then those toxins become kind of incorporated into the body of the caterpillar and then the butterfly. And so monarchs are to some extent protected by the fact that their bodies contain these toxins. Certainly, birds eat butterflies. I would imagine some small mammals would eat a butterfly. But they'll probably only taste a monarch once. And then they'll realize that they're disgusting, and they'll leave them alone after that. And monarchs have this very recognizable coloration. It's called, it's called warning coloration. And so, that makes the butterflies very easy to spot, easy to recognize. And animals who have kind of made the mistake of trying to bite into a monarch butterfly once are going to then go, nope, not for me. So I think for that reason, we don't think that monarchs do have any, particularly avid predators.
Eleanor does have her hand raised, so I'll let her do that before I go to the next question.
Thank you, Acacia. And if I may add, predation by birds is one of the most important natural causes of monarch mortality during the winter. And two examples of bird species would be the black-headed grosbeaks and the black-backed orioles. So those could also be considered as some of the predators for monarchs.
Thank you. And the next question would be for Antoine and Eleanor. Do you guys have enough data from previous years to be able to know if things like the path of jet stream, for example, are affecting the migratory pathways of monarchs?
I'm thinking even Georgina, if you have the answer to this. Or Eleanor, go ahead.
Well, we've been capturing data for the last 7 years, and this would be the 8th year. So maybe not enough, but we have surely seen that the data has shown some trends, but not that specific. So it's still ongoing. We're still collecting data. So that's why we are encouraging more and more participation. But we do know that researchers are using the data that we collect as we go.
Perfect.
And
Thank
I
you.
think also in terms of science, you know, having more data is always useful. So it's also why we do this blitz every year. You learn the trends over 8 years is can be sort of a short time in terms of science. So the more data that we're able to gather, the better we can do evidence-based conservation based on these trends. So the data is used to do those trends, but we don't use the data ourselves. This is usually go through a database where other organizations and researchers are able to do this. It's freely available. So that's also one of the strengths, I think, of the Blitz is we're collecting all of this data together, and then this is uploaded to portals that are then able to be used by many different people. So it's not just the CCR partners that have access to this. It's really a collaborative effort.
Thank you. So another question is, anyone is free to answer this. As the Canadian monarchs migrate to Mexico, what do they eat? As many of the flowers along the way are finished blooming, perhaps.
That's a good question. I think as they migrate south, they're going to see migration is the phenomenon where they're going to go to places where they have food available. So whether it be late blooming flowers, weeds and wildflowers, they can have also alternative food sources. They can be no monarchs to feed on rotting fruits or overripe fruits, tree sap. They also manage their energy, their fat reserves. They do those stopovers along the migration route to see where the resources are available and take advantage of that. And the timing of the migration is really crucial because, as mentioned in the question, when food sources are less available, that's when they're going to migrate to follow the route to make sure that they can reach their destination.
Thank you. And we'll do our last question that I'll open to everybody. How do you go about making your garden pollinator friendly? And does the use of herbicides have an impact on pollinators like monarchs?
Yeah, herbicides and pesticides, they do. Yeah, they do impact monarchs. I mean, they impact all the insects in your garden, all of the beneficial insects that are part of that, little ecosystem. In terms of making your garden attractive for monarch butterflies, certainly you would want to plant native milkweeds. And we would recommend that you try to get, your milkweed seed or your milkweed seedlings locally. So if you're in Ontario, go to like a larger plant nursery that actually grows their stock themselves. Ask them where they get their seeds. So you'd be looking to plant something from seed that was collected in Ontario so that those milkweed plants are going to be well adapted to our climate. So definitely planting milkweed, but then also just planting a variety of nectaring flowers that are going to bloom throughout the season. So basically from spring all the way till August. The ones that are really helpful in August, if you happen to have space in your garden to plant asters, or if you have space to let a little corner go a little wild and you've got a little bit of goldenrod there, those are the plants that monarchs really like fatten up on, as they're starting their journey. So they're very important for monarchs. But then I would just say plant a variety. Certainly there are a lot of very attractive native plants that you could try. You can plant obviously flowers other than native plants as well. And they'll probably be used by something, whether it's like the tiniest bee that you didn't see was there, or, a large bumblebee that, might be pollinating your tomatoes and your peppers and your eggplants. So even having some vegetables and herbs in a garden can be really helpful for pollinators.
Also, if I may add, there are lots of resources online for pollinator gardens. And actually, our partner from Space for Life have all available information that you might need and that you might find interesting. So we're going to post the link on the chat so you can take a look.
Thank you. And thanks, Michelle. I think that was a very clear explanation. I sort of want to drive that point again. I'm reading all the questions in the chat and really thank you for the interest. It's really great to see all the interest in monarch butterfly and pollinator conservation. In terms of pollinator gardens, same thing, our website, People for Pollinators, is also a hub where there are different resources on how to do a pollinator garden, how to plant milkweeds, things like that that can be useful. And I think, as mentioned, really going with native species, going with local species is usually the best. For monarch butterfly specifically, we want to plant milkweed, plant native milkweed species. But in addition, in your pollinator garden, if you provide a variety of nectar-rich flowers, this will also support other pollinators. This will create a more balanced and thriving ecosystems. So all of nature will benefit from that. And it can be difficult to find the appropriate resources, to know where do I get my seeds, what should I plant, is this the appropriate time, appropriate timing. It is a bit of research, so we're hoping through our People for Pollinators webpage, this can also serve as a hub to go to these all different resources that can give you the information that you need. But we don't want to make pollinator conservation complicated. So thing to remember, I think, is planting native flowers and going out in the field and telling us what you see out there so it can help us with our conservation efforts. So again, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think that's all the time we have for questions now. I just want to thank everyone and our panelists for providing their expertise. And I just want to remind you all that the Blitz is still going. So you can check out some of the links that I've shared for the iNaturalist project specifically for Canada, but also check out the links so you can find what project suits you best and how you want to contribute. And if you do join the project, stay in tune because we'll have more journal posts to come about the Blitz and to talk about the results and kind of see where you can see all your hard work kind of being used and what to look forward to next year. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.